Hey folks, Ted from Immersion here, and also hi critters. I'm assuming a bunch of you have shown up because of the last video I made, and possibly because of the one that you're seeing right now. So, I made a video on the Oath of the Open Sea Paladin that Matt Mercer had released on D&D Beyond. I made that video earlier today, and in it I said he released a second subclass. And a lot of you said, well, what is that second subclass? And here's the video outlining it. Now, it's not technically a new subclass. We've seen it. It's been around for 3 years at this point. But we are seeing what I assume is the final version. So let's take a look. We're talking about this guy right here, the Way of the Cobalt Soul Monk. This is the Tal'dorei campaign setting from back in 2017. And it was one of the, I think, 4 or 5 subclasses added in that book. Now, here's the thing. It has seen countless revisions over the years. I think Matt had done a whole bunch. It never made it to the DM's Guild for one reason or another. And I know he had posted several tweaks and updates on his Twitter, like, oh, I'm changing this to be this to be that. And that's been kind of an ongoing thing. And we've never really been able to see whatever version Marisha's been playing since the start of Campaign 2. But I assume now, if we go to D&D Beyond and we look at the one that's there, I gotta guess that that's the one she's using. And probably the most play-tested version, because it's been play-tested for over 100 episodes. So if we go ahead and click on this, or I click on this and you see this on D&D Beyond, you can see the Way of the Cobalt Soul is right here. Now, it is technically homebrew. I'll keep you all aware of that. That's why there's this marker right here that says this is unofficial material. That means it's Matt Mercer's homebrew. It's what he has homebrew for his world and his game. It's not part of the Wildmount campaign guide. It's not considered official D&D content. It falls in the same vein as the Gunslinger Fighter that he made, the Blood Hunter, but because of the nature, because he's Matt Mercer, because it's Critical Role and the nature and the relationship they have with D&D Beyond, his homebrew gets floated to the top to arrive here to show it like this. So, that being said, let's scroll down. So first thing I notice is one of the first options here says beginning at 6th level. And you start getting monk abilities at 3rd level. So I don't know if this is a typo, if this should come up at 6th level and we should move this down, if this should in fact be at 3rd level, and that's a typo. Because when I look in the Tal'dorei campaign guide, Mystical Erudition is at 3rd level. So let's compare the two and we'll go through. So you've undergone extensive training in history and lore, so you'll learn a language of your choice and gain proficiency in one of the following skills: Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, or Religion. I should probably say or religion, not and, but that's a minor nitpick. So intelligence-based skills. If you already have proficiency in one of the listed skills, you can instead choose to double your proficiency bonus for any ability check you make with that chosen proficiency. So a way for a monk to kind of innately get expertise, if you will. And you gain an additional language and skill proficiency from the list above, with the ability to double the proficiency bonus at 11th and 17th level. So if I look at the original one in the campaign, Tal'dorei campaign guide, it was whenever you make an Arcana, History, or Religion check, you can spend a key point to gain advantage on the roll, and you learn an additional language of your choice. You gain an additional language at 11th and 17th level. So this is obviously way better. Spending a key point to understand stuff in a book didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me originally, because it just doesn't jive in my brain how you can know to expend your key energy to give you advanced knowledge of reading books. So this is, I think, way better. So you're going to get a total of either 3 you're going to get 3 languages regardless, and you're going to get a total of possibly 3 skill proficiencies or 3 expertise, or a combination of both. So I think that works out pretty well. Now, I will say, these 2 abilities that you get at level 3, assuming Mystical Erudition is supposed to be at 3rd level, and that's just a typo. I'm also saying that because this is first in the order on D&D Beyond, so I assume that that's supposed to be, which mimics what's in the Tal'dorei guide. It seems like kind of a lot to front load a 3rd level subclass, but let's see what we've got here. Extract Aspects. Whenever you hit a creature with one of the attacks granted by Flurry of Blows, you can mark them as analyzed. Whenever an analyzed creature misses you with an attack, you can immediately use your reaction to make an unarmed melee attack against that creature. It lasts until you finish a short or long rest. So it's continual. I didn't realize that when I first read this. So you mark them, you put a little analyze token on them. They are now analyzed. Whenever they miss you with an attack, you can make a reactionary strike against them. So until you finish a short or long rest, and that's up on that creature that whole time. So each turn when they miss you, if you have a reaction available, you can use it to attack them. In addition, you learn the following attributes about the target: damage vulnerabilities, damage resistances, damage immunities, and condition immunities. Well, this is severely improved over the original one in the Tal'dorei guide, which was whenever you hit a single creature with 2 or more attacks in 1 round, you can spend a Q point to force them to make a con save. On a fail, you learn one of the following things: creature type, armor class, senses, highest saving throw modifier, lowest saving throw modifier, damage vulnerabilities, damage resistances, damage immunities, or condition immunities. And then at 6th level, if they fail their saving throw, you learn 2 aspects: 3 at 11, 4 at 17. It was a lot of people I remember not liking this because your whole ability is predicated on them failing a Constitution saving throw. Otherwise, you're spending a key point to possibly use an ability. You spend a key point, they make a con save, they fail, this ability does nothing. This is much cleaner. This is probably also more in the realm of things you would probably want to know. Like armor class would be useful, but I feel like more often than not, DMs kind of loosely give that to people. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing. It's much more limited, which I guess sort of meters out if Mystical Erudition is supposed to be a 3rd level ability, that it's short or long rest. And then that means that like it's not an always on thing. You have some time before you can use it again. Plus you're a monk, you get your key points back on a short rest, so you're going to be taking short rests. So that's good. And this is like a good move. You get into a fight and you've got like one big guy that you're going to be focusing on. Use this on them. You'll get the useful information on the resistances and vulnerabilities and things. But then you can also stay in the fray with them. And if they try to almost kind of like taunt them into hitting you, and then if they happen to miss, and you could always use dodge as a bonus action to try to force them to miss, to then give yourself a reactionary attack. So that synergizes very well with existing monk abilities. All right, then we have Extort Truth at 6th level. If you hit a creature with an unarmed attack, you can spend 1 key point to force them to make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is unable to speak a deliberate lie, and all charisma checks directed at the creature are made with advantage for up to 10 minutes. You know if they succeed or fail. An affected creature is aware of the effect and can thus avoid answering questions to which it would normally respond with a lie. Such creatures can be evasive in their answers as long as the effect lasts. So it's basically like a Zone of Truth spell. It is non-concentration for you, but you have to hit them first. You spend a key point, and then they make a charisma save. But it functions basically like Zone of Truth. You know whether they pass or fail, and then they have the ability to weasel word their way out of speaking the actual truth if they want to. Compared to the original one, which was if you manage to hit a single creature with 2 or more attacks in 1 round, you can spend 2 key points to force them to make a charisma saving throw. You can choose to have this deal no damage. On a failed save, they're unable to speak a deliberate lie for 1 minute. You know if they succeed or fail, and then it basically had that last little bit there, an affected creature, blah, blah, blah. So this was, once again, you had to hit them with 2 attacks in a single round, and then spend a key point to make a charisma saving throw, and then it was a minute. This is 1 unarmed attack, 1 key point, and the charisma saving throw is for up to 10 minutes, and they also added this: your charisma checks directed at them are made with advantage if you're going to try to intimidate them or lie to them. So just again, a clean up, better version of this overall. Mind of Mercury here. You've honed your awareness and reflexes. Once per turn, if you've already taken your reaction, you may spend 1 key point to take an additional reaction. Okay, compared to the original, which you got at 6th level, by the way, Mind of Mercury. It said you can take a number of additional reactions each round equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1, at the cost of 1 key point per reaction beyond the first. So that's just poor wording. You can only use 1 reaction per trigger. In addition, whenever you make an investigation check, you can spend a key point to get advantage on the roll. So this, they changed. So once per turn. So it's only once a turn. So keep that in mind. Not once a round, once a turn. If you've already taken your reaction, you can spend a key point to take an additional reaction. Okay, so not too bad overall. You're spending your key points, you're using those up for that. And again, it depends. So I guess it's also kind of limited in being a monk. You're sort of limited in what you can use your reaction for. Obviously, unarmed attack, opportunity attack is one that you will probably use relatively consistently. But then you could also potentially use extract aspects to gain, the extract aspects ability to possibly get another attack if you've already used your reaction. And then we had originally something here called Preternatural Counter. If a creature misses you with an attack, you can immediately use your reaction to make a melee attack against that creature. That was obviously baked into extract aspects now. And then lastly, we have Debilitating Barrage at 17. Whenever you hit a creature with one of the attacks granted by your Flurry of Blows, you can spend 3 key points to cause the creature to suffer a vulnerability to a damage type of your choice for 1 minute, or until they take a damage of that type. A creature who is affected by this feature cannot be affected by it again for 24 hours. So it's essentially sort of like the Path to the Grave that the Grave Domain Cleric has, where they can choose to grant someone vulnerability to like the next attack they take. So this is vulnerability to a damage type of your choice for 1 minute, or until they take that damage. So it's not like it's constant ongoing vulnerability. You just pick a damage type. So if you were to say bludgeoning damage because you're punching them, then they would have bludgeoning damage vulnerability for a minute or until they take bludgeoning damage. Now, for the original one, it was whenever you hit a creature with 3 or more attacks in 1 round, you can spend 3 key points to give that creature disadvantage to their attack rolls until the end of your next turn, and they must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failure, then they're vulnerable for a damage type of your choice for 1 minute or until they take it. And then it would go into, say, creatures with resistance or immunity do not suffer this vulnerability, which is revealed after the damage type is chosen, and then it lists all the damage types. So way wordier, way more complicated. So overall, I'm going to say this is just a general, and we kind of knew that going into it, this is just a general improvement in every way over the existing version that we saw in the Tal'dorei campaign guide. So that's step 1. How does it stack up with other monk subclasses? It kind of reminds me a little bit of the open hand monk in some ways, where if you hit somebody with either an unarmed strike or a flurry of blows attack, you can then do subsequent things. But this is good to see, because in my homebrew world, I do have basically using this concept, this kind of intelligent-based monks in my homebrew world as well. So this is a big improvement in case anyone ever decides they want to play one. So this, again, I said, other than this needing to be clarified where this ability actually lands, I'm assuming based on the secondary ability being short or long rest recharge, this is 3rd level. So this, again, significantly cleaner, better overall proficiency, a language and a proficiency, or expertise, or double proficiency if you already have it. And I like that it doesn't give you double proficiency bonus if you don't have it. It's not like a scout rogue where you just get double proficiency automatically. Extract aspects, much cleaner now. They're marked. You get this reactionary attack against them, and you get to know the good stuff you want to know about them. Extort Truth, again, is basically nothing really crazy to see here. It's essentially just giving you access to the Zone of Truth spell that like paladins have for a key point. Mind of Mercury, again, much cleaner. If you've taken a reaction, you can spend a key point to get an additional reaction. And then Debilitating Barrage, again, essentially something similar. You have to hit somebody with the attack, so you got to be in close to them. And it's nice that it lets you choose the damage type. So, like, if you don't want to give it, like, let's say you personally, as the monk, don't have a really big, heavy-hitting move, which you probably won't if you're doing punches all the time. But you have a paladin in the party who does radiant damage, a crazy amount of radiant damage with their smites. You could say, I'm going to give him vulnerability to radiant damage, and then the paladin can just wail on him and do a ton of damage. Or piercing damage if you've got a rogue, right? They're going to use their crossbow or their dagger. Then you can have the sneak attack damage be, vulnerability to the sneak attack damage. So overall, I think this class is a significant improvement. I like it. It's not my favorite monk subclass, but monks, I'm still kind of iffy on myself. I played one back in my Out of the Abyss campaign. I played the old Tranquility monk when that was still a thing. So I like it a lot, but I like the concept of monk a lot, but I think I'll stand by this. I think the viability and the fun of a monk in your party or in your game depends largely on your DM. I think depending on how willing your DM is to allow you, and I guess the player too, right? If you're willing to really get down and describe like how you're going about doing your moves, that will make it much more fun for you. And if your DM knows a little bit about knows martial arts, watches a lot of kung fu movies, they can make that more fun for you. But I also feel like monks are a good base class that gets a lot of like passive abilities as you level up, which is fun. But I also feel like you're pretty much like what you're going to do is pretty standard, right? I'm going to punch, or punch every turn, or maybe kick, headbutt, punch, however you want to break it down. So I think monks need to have very interesting subclasses and very interesting features to make them, make you want to gravitate towards them. And I think this does that. This is also a great way to potentially have a monk to sub in for the role of like the intelligence side of the things of like a wizard would typically have. If you have a Cobalt Soul monk in your party, you may not need to have the caster focus on, or whoever focus on the intellectual knowledge-based things. You have that covered, and you're also a frontline fighter, so that kind of gives you a dual role, which is interesting. Again, like I said, sorry, I don't know what's going on over there, but thank you all so much for watching. Check in the links in the description for the to enter the giveaway. There'll be links down there for that. There'll also be a link to this, but it's just on D&D Beyond if you want to go check it out for yourself. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, by the way, over on Patreon for continuing to support me and the channel, and I will see you all next time.